The Critical Mass Show with the new romantic, dandy highwayman, anarchist, Paul Giovanni. Mondays 7 till 9 on Critical Mass Radio. Now, it's our turn.
Good evening, guys, and welcome to the Critical Mass Show with myself, Paul Giovanni, on criticalmassradio.co.uk, Monday 7 to 9, kicking off the week. I hope you are all well. I hope you've had a fantastic week and everything's going great in this busy, silly time of year that we find ourselves all in. Okay, I'm going to say thank you to last week's guest and to everybody who's emailed in with suggestions and comments. To Miles Johnson, thank you very much. Wonderful time that we had there last week. Looking at tonight, we've got Sevan, Boma, my mate on. Just looking at the three chat boxes that I've got going, and the caller in section on my studio, and all the calls there, and all the guests that we've got, and everybody coming in, and all the messages that I've had before. So, getting ready in preparation for the show. I did a bit of a half marathon this morning, been eating well, drinking well, revving myself up, all prepped, ready to go. For Sevan, there's a lot that we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm opening up the calls to the callers as well, and any questions that you've got, please just give me a shout. It's all good. I'll try and get through as many as I can. Thank you for some of the messages that are coming now. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you for that compliment already. Lovely stuff. Right, I'm going to stop talking because really the time that I've got and that we have with Sevan is very important, and I just want to move on now. So I'll just unmute the mic. Sevan.
Wholeness and balance to everyone. Hopefully, I'm coming through very clear. How you doing, Paul?
You're coming through fantastically well, nice. And I'm doing fine. How have you been?
Oh, exhilarated. I'm obviously super excited about the show today. I just love being, with the family. It's amazing. And obviously I had a pretty decent time, especially in the beginning of the show, to just reflect, to center myself, and to, get ready to launch this thing off, with something new. We're always bringing, wholeness, and then now we got other components that we're bringing to the table. So it's a very joyous time, It's a very joyous time.
There's a lot. I like the way you said centering yourself there. I'm finding that more as life accelerates for myself and other people. A lot of people say, Paul, you need to just ground yourself, center yourself, get focused in the now, in the present. It's the most important time. Stop thinking of the past, stop going in the future. Now, Paul, focus, and this is where we are. So yeah, there's so much going on, Sevan, and I know that you've got so much going on, and 2015. In general, I've said for years, and 2016 is going to be a huge year for many, many people, and yourself included.
It definitely looks really good. I'm really just working to do as much spring cleaning as I can. I think these months are really measured more on a lunar level, so it's basically the full moon. So I think that everyone should have experienced or seen something by now, starting somewhere in the December, I think that was December 6th, December 7th area, during that last waxing phase of this year. And just the energy itself it's always going to be where when we're trying to talk and then we're coursing with this energy that's, somebody could build something, somebody could invent something, someone could even fly off, who knows, if it's cultivated in the right environment. When you have to put it into this language and get onto this radio, and then you walk around with this kind of language rather than expressing it to people, and we'll let people know it's like shoving an elephant through a straw. It's just very difficult. So, a lot of us now, we're feeling the inherent energy because we've been reinforcing something, and we've been telling ourselves about, who we really are and what that expansion is really equaling. And this is very simple to understand how it works. If you magnify a certain kind of frequency, and every frequency range that you could ever emit from the planet or from where yourself is already resonant in the planet. So the moment you send off that energy, just like with a piano, if you ring one key, if you look at another piano, that same key is ringing without no one pressing it. And this shows you how the whole thing really works with how it charges itself, how when you start to really, really reinforce any kind of idea, because, this is not just a positive thing, a negative thing, or a balanced thing. It's just something that works across the board. And so what we're looking at right now is working on a massive deprogramming mission to get others into this pure enjoyment of what we all need to see. Even, whoever alphabets and whatever label they may give themselves, their true reality is now all this go green and all this, we're not going to burn oil, and all this is coming forward, but it's coming forward to people who can't even really afford to eat, this expensive organic food every day and blah, blah, blah. And so it's almost like a tailspin in itself where, the little minute mind controllers, which are just people who understand certain levels of knowledge and then propagate it as if they're the ones that are the originators of it and that they're the only holders of it. Though that small percentage is realizing, oh, snap, the masses got to be changed rapidly, or else, it's who knows what may happen. Nobody wants to see what may happen. They got kids here, all these kind of different things. So I know now, that's when, me and my crew, of course, we show up, because it's really about coming up with rapid solutions that are very innovative to go ahead and take this planet into what it really can be. Like, we got enough resources here. So I'll just say today, people need to decide whether you're in or you're out or you're both. Okay? And I'll explain that during the show, because it is possible to be both, but you need to have a developed front door and a developed back door. But the reality is, we could talk about some things today. Obviously, today is open for questions because we've been dropping a lot of stuff. So the last thing, and, bringing up a lot of stuff. So the last thing we really want to do is keep bringing new things on top of somebody's maybe unquelled answer to a question. So that's what's up. So what I'm saying is that today's conversation is going to encase for those people who I keep seeing running around trying to do both. It's like they're in sometimes and then they're out. And it looks a bit pitiful after a while, because if you don't accept what you're doing, you can burn a lot of energy unnecessarily. If you're aspiring to do, something that's multifaceted, then that would mean you have to be in and outside the matrix and working as a master in many tenses, meaning understanding how those mechanics work on both planes. What are the straight principles so that you stop lying to yourself? And then also how you merge your consciousness to a point where it's not constantly going into duality and thus pulling down your energy. So, I'm I know you said that we're going to do some things today as far as the message is concerned, but we were going to really let it flow. So that's what I'm going to do.
That's cool. You just said, Sevan, there, and this is looking at this, and I think let's just mention for everybody now your new site firstly, so we can sort of build on that as well, and on the conversation itself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Secret
year.
Energy is about to launch. We're going into beta in January. It's been a long time coming, lots of work on the back end, on the technical side of things, but open source spirituality is making its advent into the world in 2015 early. And it's really, it's set up as, it's a bridge, it's the glue, it's the skeleton, it's what actually connects the synchronicities. It's the hub for synchronicities. So it actually connects the synchronicities with their proper corresponding agents. So that way you don't have to wait for certain other things. And I'll explain this very simply. Like, let's say, for instance, you've come across this massive level of spiritual experience. Now you have all these other individuals, because where much is given, much is required, that are on another plane attempting to get that message to their loved ones that are here. And there's other beings that just think everyone is their loved one, right? That's the maximum that you can reach, right? So in that sense, that person's constantly getting a new person, a person coming up, someone calling us, someone emailing, because what we have to do is we have to increase the amount of people who are actually completely in the know, because they'll just be in the know of the blueprint in a tense, meaning that something that, because of how the reality functions, you can slap on to pretty much anything that you're trying to do and get the truth to it in a matter of moments, just depending upon how fast your brain can process it. But really giving people an actual map to this reality that allows them to be able to navigate their way through Zion, like I said, compassion, or the compass to Zion. So you need to understand how you're moving about. And also understand after that the map is still not the terrain itself. Meaning that just because you've read about it, just because you got it some secret books about it, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when we have to go on that experience and you're feeling the energetics coming through your body, you're witnessing with your two eyes or your one eye phenomena that, you may have thought that it was a game until that point. Then you also have to know what to do beyond that. Okay, because see, we have to get away from, in every tense, all of the constant talking and no action. That's why anytime I talk, I'm always talking about action. I figured out how to marry the two. Let's talk about doing something then. Let's not just go into idle chat here, because if I'm really who I say I am, if I'm working on what I say I'm working on, that means I absolutely have no time to waste. But in every tense, I value the time that I'm spending with others, because that time is going to be infused with some wild synchronicity that causes this, what some call the 3 degree of separation. It's basically that you know someone that also knows whoever you want to get to. They say it was 6 degrees before, and this is how you basically understand the quantum field. 6 degrees is like, let's say, for instance, you want to talk to Nicki Minaj, okay? That they say that there's 6 people that if you know how to go through the right chain reactions, they know someone who knows someone to know someone, and 6 degrees later, it's Nicki Minaj, okay? And they said this is for everyone. So now those who move in quantum and synchronicity, it's like 3 for them now. They know someone that boom, that's the person that they want to get to. So this field that we're working with is a real thing, and it can be utilized in every tense to take our world into what just those of us that are still sane enough know we don't want to be experiencing, or we don't want our children to be experiencing, or our mothers to be experiencing, beyond even understanding that is an illusion. Okay, that what's going on here is illusionary. It doesn't even matter, because when I look at my panorama, when I look at what my life was like here, because I'll look at that just like I'll maybe pop in some old recording of me playing baseball when I was younger. Okay, I may get into the cosmos and decide to do that. I don't want to see anything all crazy in there that I know at the stage that I had reached at that point that I could have even made it a greater story, because I'm just into existence. You see what I mean? That means when you take the personal responsibility for what you're experiencing, and then you make it your responsibility to make it at its best. And I'll tell people, like right now, some people are really out of energy right now. And this has not even got started yet. I mean, if there was ever a race, the gauntlet, it hasn't even really began yet. And already people are tired out, because the real experience is working on the other planes, coming out of the body and actually understanding how to operate the mechanics of the actual adventure. You know, when you realize that every single organism around you does have some sentience level to it and has something to contribute to your expansion on the way back before the Big Bang. And, you know, so
right.
Go ahead.
Sevan, sorry, because there's many questions that I've got, and also there's things that are bringing to me. So for all the listeners as well, there's big things being sent and from all angles here. So I don't purposely want to knock Sevan off from what he's saying. This is why we're sort of devoting the whole show. So
sure.
Get on with it and ask questions. It's what we have before. Because this. Yeah. Okay, guys. Okay. It's going bananas. Lying to. This is one that I wrote down as well. So lying to yourself. Now, all with this and the development of self and to where we need to go. You said before. Yeah. Right. I've got this. So when people are lying to themselves, deceiving themselves, is this, we're going, when we're talking about the energy and the connection to energy here, and I found this out through so many people this year, that there are a lot of people out there, Sevan, who are burnt out because they're not true to self, because they're lying to themselves, and I don't know why just yet, but I mean, is this, again, you said about the programming, the deprogramming, do you see where I'm going with that now?
For sure. I mean, this realistically, I mean, what I do now is I go back at the teachers, because we have so much of resources, and when we understand what's in our arsenal to actually correct these kind of issues. So the last thing to do when someone's blind is to start talking about how they need to see. It's like telling someone that's crippled that he needs to jump up and walk. Now the individual's in a position that they can't actually do that, or probably would have done it already. So when we go in there, we have to go in there with the innovative tools that actually recollect the situation. And if it's breaking someone into the other side of themselves, cracking the old egg that's around them, is strategic. and it's smooth. Like the last thing you really want to do is, especially once a person gets a good bearing of who you are and trust you, is to come in all strong and with something like, Twin Towers fell to a diehard patriot, or, that there is no external Jesus to a devout Christian. You see, so these kind of techniques about how we can explain things now, it is great work in itself because we have to use this circular language. But beyond all of this, I would say that, you got to accept, once again, if you're in this work. That's why I was saying, are you in or you out? Because if you're in, then you already been briefed. You already know the situation. The frequency levels of the individuals is so low that it's placed them in deeper below theta, which means they're basically asleep. So if you're actually trying to talk to them, you won't get a response from them. And likewise, there's an alert. There's an alertness level. There's an awareness level. And people don't consider this. They could think whether you're just feeling like you want to go to sleep or you're awake is the only ramifications of whether you're asleep or awake. But no, there's more. When you get into more awakening, even little moments could have such an impact on your conscience. Little thoughts can have such an impact on your conscience at that moment. You can be like, oh man, I need to get my stuff together. Man, this is wild. Like, I'm on this planet. These people don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. I need to really figure this out. And it's just, that sounds like, to someone who's asleep, like, okay, you're babbling, you're going on. What about it? It's because the feeling is what is really the voice. Like it's really important, because if I say green, okay, and I say, oh, those trees are green. Green is the word that we gave it. That's not really what it is. So it's the same thing here. We have to realize that we got to get in with the actual energetic potential behind what we're talking about, and don't get caught up into thinking that somehow you can't reach, for whatever age you are, whatever the accuser or the dweller has told you is your reason why you can't actually do it. Don't accept it, because, look, they say you can't be the president. Okay, so it's pretty much written in someone's book that you don't have the criteria to be the president. So if we're talking about being expanded human consciousness, or and even beyond that, that's definitely off limits according to the same people who made the rule that you can't be president, because that's beyond that. So automatically we should know by default that we're not going to get any information from just the standard side that's been producing the information about our power, because there is something going on here. There is, if you want to call it malevolence, it's kind of clear what's going on. It's when you take another entity that has equal right and equal power and make it believe that it doesn't have that power and it doesn't have that level of consciousness, and then trap it and envelop it in that kind of mire and that kind of low frequency, and then reign a dominion over it. So this is what we have come into from the other side of this now, is graduating into our oversoul, into our higher selves, looking back on which we came from and saying, oh, it's still not an effort at all to remove the shell or the stagnant energy that had encased all of those beings that are still in there. Lovely beings, beautiful beings. I've met some beautiful people here on the planet. So cracking that open so that they can also keep expanding themselves, I don't see why people make such a big deal out of why it can and cannot be done. And when a big deal is made out of it, it just becomes so huge, it becomes insurmountable. So to answer your question, that's what the person is dealing with. They're dealing with that insurmountable wall of, okay, maybe we need to just turn around and go in the other direction. So where we're at is we walk through the wall and we're on the other side. We drill a hole in the wall. We may knock the wall down.
So, I mean, fantastic. So, again, I'm picking up on what you said there, that there are people and with that mindset, like say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're never going to be this, you're never going to be that. But I also find that a lot of people actually adopt that stance just because, as you said earlier, you're either in or you're out, and they'll just sort of kind of say, well, I can't do this anyway. Well, you hear this line all the time, and people agree with this, and I say it every week on the show. People say, that's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. It's only special people that get to A, B, and C, and, I'm just part of the workforce, and that's all I'm good for. You're born, you mortgage, you die, game over. And,
right.
And that's the sort of frightens the life out of me, that talk,
Well, yeah, that's the cell, and that's the cell itself, and that's what we're breaking people out of, and it's just, it's a real thing, I'm not going to get long-winded about just the one question because I know there's tons more, but, there's lots more to add on to, getting people out of that cell and getting people out of that state of consciousness because they get it. See, the thing is they get it at every angle. Okay. When they walk into work, they can't be the boss. When they walk into the store, they can't buy what they really want to buy because they don't have enough money. When they go to the bank, they say you don't have enough credit, so you can't get this. When you go try to get credit, they say you don't have enough money. So you see, it's a cage. It's just invisible. And this is what I was saying before about, because I've been in a real cage before. So what happens is that there's a frequency there. And then when you come out, if you feel that same frequency, that means there's still a cage somewhere, but it's just invisible. It's kind of a larger cage, okay? But the reality is that it's not larger or smaller because it's in the person's mind. It's basically the cages are all the same sizes. And a lot of the triggering, because triggering is always in duality. Okay, that's why our corpus callosum in the center of our brain is burned out from doing so much duality where the brain is warring one side or another to actually have dominance. And that's actually the war you see going on between the male and the females for one to have dominance. Woman wants her dominance back. Man wants to stay dominant. This is the volley back and forth between the two states of consciousness. So, we're there. So let's go ahead and take some more questions. Let's go ahead and take some questions.
Right. Well, what I'm going to do, Sevan, if it's okay with you, because there's a lot of statements, a lot of nods of agreement, and we've got some callers. So I'm just going to open lines and let's just go with the flow. And
yeah, for sure. In the chat boxes, because I also you have to realize that people get on, they hear things how they want to hear, and then they start saying stuff. So I always make sure that I have something to show that this is not a democracy. Like you could just get removed because it disturbs other people's flow. But if you have open lines over there, we can always handle that on the phone very easy. But as far as the text messages, it can get out of control because people just go at it with each other because people are still in confusion, man. Like, it's not new. Like there's nothing wrong with what they're doing is what I'm saying because it's logical that that's what would occur next if you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so hello, I've got a caller now. Hello? Hello. Speak to me. You've got your hand raised.
Yep.
Hello? You're through
Yes.
the Physical Mass Show. How are you doing? You okay?
Am I on there?
You are. You're live. You're going for it. You're through to Sevan now.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you, Paul, for hosting Sevan on the air today. And Sevan, I just want to say I love you, brother.
Love you too, brother.
Thank you for all that you've done. My question today is I'm kind of going through my whole little my spiritual path, I guess, and just setting up different things to learn. And I don't know, I haven't heard Sevan speak on it too much, but studying like law and getting familiar with your status and how the Moors speak on like nationality and things like that. So I'd just like to know what your stance would be on that.
Well, I mean, you're on the right network for that. Obviously, I could talk on any subject, so I'll go ahead and answer the question. But Kate definitely does a really good job at speaking about this topic. But realistically, it sums up to me as Black's Law Dictionary, which is basically a dictionary of black magic. It's how to actually take a person and allow them to agree to their own binding so that they can be used and then sold away and sold. Basically, that's it. It's slave-based programming, okay? So from there, I understand the whole approaching the courthouse with paperwork and things and trying to get the actual bond back from the birth certificates, and I've walked through like maybe 3 or 4 years of that. But the reality is that it would have to be. This is a supernatural situation we're dealing with. This is a supernatural war, if you may. So I wouldn't be going to talk to no humans about my status of me being sovereign or not, because that's how serious that is. Like when that's what we talked about in one episode. It's called mandamus. But mandamus is basically when you file to a higher court for something that has not been listed in the legal books as being illegal. Because the way that the law is designed is that they're not doing anything wrong. First of all, they have agreements, and then plus there's a forked tongue. So the way that things are writ, it kind of says one thing that confirms another, and then when you agree to it, then it's all great. There's no laws being broken. So that's the trickery. It's like showing someone only certain options, like Republican and Democrat, never letting them know that they either they don't have to choose, or that there's a lot more candidates that they can choose from. So just so you understand, it's about really getting to the sovereign state of yourself and your consciousness to get out from underneath the dominion, which is basically a frequency going on in your body. All of the stuff you see in the physical world is just shadows of that collective people having the same issue are projecting this shadow that becomes very similar to an idea. Okay, it starts to develop energy, like let's say a courthouse. And then on the physical plane, the ether itself starts to coalesce around that idea. Okay, this is how collective realities work. This is why you have all sorts of different things going on, because we, as this 8 billion division of an organism, are all projecting pros and cons, billions and zillions, yottabyte of back and forth decisions that are all colliding with each other, canceling each other out, causing other effects. That's called a collective projection. So now this is also what will let you know that now that there's 8 billion and there's a lot of variations, this is the time that really anything can happen if you understand how to harness the wet work, which is basically being able to tap right into the energetic field of projection and then to begin to conceive a greater vision than the cymatic pattern or overarch that is the current vision for the expansion of this planet, meaning what it's going to be doing next. So you can tell that it's under the control of certain individuals, that their ideas of what they're going to do next are real self-centered. However, a very innovative, more expanded, all-encompassing idea and projection that's strong, that moves like a strong will, it will replace an old system. That system would just be encompassed inside of it. And this is why you should not really limit yourself also to saying you want to actually be something until you see all the options anyway. Because the moment that you say, well, I want to be, let's just say, an inventor, okay? The bigger projection, the bigger cymatic still say, oh, no problem. I got you. We have inventors. You can just take this position right here as an inventor. Versus when you start talking about, something that's you're not even talking, it's on a whole nother gamut. Then it starts to envelop it. And that's really what's been going on with a lot of the movements that have stayed true and stayed in with the collective projection of the synchronicity that we're all experiencing. It's become solid. That's why I keep trying to tell people, like, we're inhabiting it now. So it's really a thing where you can shift to something that does exist, but it's going to take the leap. And that's how the Sephiroth in the body is set up, that there's an invisible pillar. And what is invisible is that you can't actually see the other side, but it's there. So you got to, at a certain point, when your consciousness gets to a certain level, you'll feel like you got to make this leap. And you have to trust then. You have to trust that you're going to be on the other side to catch yourself. And so what this is really about is in this life, we are encouraged not to trust ourselves, and we are taught things that do lead to us should not really trust ourselves. This is the cause and effect of what you've seen happen in your life and other people seen happen, that they be wanting to erase, they be wanting to change, they say it's bad, and even at many instances it makes them believe that there is no God, there is no higher power, et cetera, et cetera. So this is that needs to be worked with individuals. So I'm sure that makes it very clear and a little bit over.
Yeah, most definitely answer my question. I just feel like there's some certain types of duality involved in like law, and mainly from I read up about like the Moors and whatnot, and I see some of the dualities that come with that message, and it kind of just, it's at the back, in the back of my mind. It kind of just bothers me.
Let me explain it like this. Let me explain it like this, very easy for you. See, when you're on top of all of this and you're looking into it, it only looks like one thing: duality. So the story of what exact dualism going, because like I said, we can go to Rama, and we can go to Shiva, and we can go to Quetzalcoatl. Okay, we could go to other cultures and find stories that are even more enigmatic than what the Moors were talking about which was basically half-baked from what the commitments were really saying. Because it doesn't, like, I can't go to sources. This is how it is, like a flashlight. The further you shine it out, the dimmer it's going to be. So why not go right back to the source? Because what the dimness is the lies. Okay, it's called real lies. This means that someone else said something based on something someone else told them, never realizing that the first person who started saying that was not telling the truth because they couldn't see the truth. See, what does it take to see the truth? And what happens to people who see the truth? They don't carry on with swords. They don't carry on a certain way. If people would see the truth, they would know that already. So you see how the truth locks everything? It guards itself. It lets the person wander around this wilderness of duality, a world with, like I said, look it up, a Yoda bite, to understand how big that is. That's about, I don't know, a large amount, okay? So this is what I'm saying is there's so many stories and so much division, it only really equals one thing. That's why I tell you, are you in or you out?
Yeah, you need to go back to the root.
Well, if you're in duality. If you're out, you're in totality. I didn't say one was better than the other. I didn't say one was good or bad. But you need to know, when you look into all that stuff, that you got to have this ejector seat. That basically once you close the book, of course, I'm not saying don't read it. But what I'm saying is that don't put yourself in that story. Observe. Be the observer. And because there's a lot deeper metaphors into certain things, because first of all, like with the Moors, and especially Morocco, that pentagram is more central to everything that's going on. Any real adept that knows what that symbol means and knows what those colors mean already know the entire story. So it's also very simple to understand that Yoruba in Europe are in connection with each other, meaning that that's the action. They're all the same names. Even the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, all this is one craft of individuals that have practiced a certain type of magic using the Hartman grid to practice on one another stuff that's just entangling and twining, and now it's just being reinvented by the ones who usurped it from Egypt. You see what I mean? So it's just the same thing. Building bodies, that's the more graduated version. You can build bodies to get other people into those incarnations. That's kind of what we're experiencing. It's like a greater level of the quest. I won't demonize it and call it the deception. But realistically, when you get inside of a body, you automatically go to duality. The whole rig is on this dualist. That's the only way you can even see this plane. And so from that point, now you're a dueler now. And to be able to escape that hatch is really what you're looking for. And that's why I was saying in the beginning of this conversation, there's some that can be in and out. It takes a very graduated being. We can explain it, and it also becomes a suture to when you're working your way from untwining from the webs that have entangled around your emotions. You see what I mean? Because we all need purpose for a while. We all need to be pulling fuel from something. We need to feel synergistic or energetic with something. So when you remove that from an individual, you have to also be very cautious. You can't just go and tell everyone, look, the Moors were, this, and that's their central theme. You better be ready to maybe fight in there. So what happens is with all of this, though, is that the Adept says, oh, are we talking about duality? Because if we are, then, we're agreeing to plunge in. And then when you plunge in, you know the truth. The pentagram is then the HUD, fire versus wood versus water, the 4 points, and then the world's being divided, the territory of the world's being divided amongst the fallen ones, meaning the harmonics, those who bound themselves on the Mount Harmon, the archon, which is the degrees of a 360-degree circle, which is a pentagram. It is a replication of phi, which the organic produces. So in every tense, a false world. And this is the word falsiphorus, who was Lucifer. So it's very interesting how it all starts rolling out, though, because people need to understand that, because they go into fear, like, oh my goodness, Lucifer's running. No. It's none of this is external. The actual template you're in, this phi-based body, but the way it's been rigged, can be manipulated to be a Luciferian or a Jehovian type structure, and a fair measure of one or the other. Because what are those really saying? Fire and water. So instead of getting like the microcosmic story, what I'm saying, like just somebody's story of what was going on in their particular tribe, it's better to go to another scope, because each of those people, that man was also a woman. Most men don't know that. They have incarnations of when they were women. There's a preliminary cycle within the animalistic beings that are on the planet. This is the lion, the snake, the bear, the flora and the fauna that the being is actually being cultivated around before it comes into a human body. So do you see there's other dynamics that just go unseen when someone's just talking about, what my rights are and, inside of a system that, it can't be acknowledged. Your sovereign doesn't acknowledge it. And that's how they end up, if you've ever been a slave, especially to any kind of demagogic tradition or just to subservience side of your own consciousness, then this is what creates a free person, or what I like to just call as a sovereign. So that's the scope of it, brother. And, I'm bringing it to you like this because I have a lot of care and compassion for the brothers that have been tuning into the message and the sisters that have been tuning into the message, because we got progress to make. And so anytime, like if you listen to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there's a lot of knowledge in there, but there's also a vital piece missing as I'm making my way through the Devacanic planes, zigzagging up my body in duality, mantra and tantra. Okay, this is the yoga and tantra, the left and the right side of the body, as I'm trying to basically figure out, and every bit trying, because I'm using left brain, right brain, center stated conscious, trying to figure out what's going on. And this is a real thing for me, and the cameras and the recorders just so happen to be on. So that's how we agreed to come into this, because I wasn't going to sacrifice my own consciousness to be up on some radio somewhere and talking to some people about something and getting a couple dollars when I already came from a world where that kind of stuff was easy to do. So this is what it is. And I've seen this, like, remember, because if you really want to talk about it, there's been continuations of the knowledge that was presented by the Moors, especially within the Nuwabian tradition. But it did lead to certain things. If someone actually did the real investigation and said, well, what was the end-all finish-all of it? It was the evocation and intonation of certain entities that, from basically what's happened every single time, they don't seem to be mesh well with the human being. And I would say that that's easy. They burn with fire. Okay, let me just explain it very simply, because this is an important thing. This is a big question that's going to answer many people's questions today. This is what Kundalini is. If you don't know how to work your water principle, you start burning with fire. This first starts as a passion, right? You got a lot of passion, a lot of will. Then it seems to get a sexual nature to it. Then that sexual nature then deviates, if not doused out. You're not putting out your fire, but you need to contain your fire. And so again, then the person will deviate, and then they generally blend their sexes then. And this is what you see going on in the industry, especially when they invert the Kundalini. Then the sexes are blend, so the person is basically an external androgynon, which is Baphomet. And it's because you externalize Kundalini. If you internalize Kundalini, the two nadis, the fire and the water, actually figure out the balance, and they both move up the spine and down the spine. And these are just the energetic centers, where a person wants to call them snakes or not. And then why there is so much bad press on it, Kundalini, serpents, etc., is for obvious reasons. Once you amplify your energy, if the person doesn't stay in balance, look out. And this is what you're seeing in the industry. That's why there's so much talent there. Like you get folks remembering lines and acting with 4 or 5 movies, and there's some real talent there. You can't deny it. But that talent is from degrees of the fire to beings that don't even understand the water principle much. And the water principle is, of course, when's the last time that you actually cried? This is how you'll notice if the organism is getting itself too deep into a fire shell, which is a seed. Seed is a fire shell. And so they won't cry, and they're kind of impenetrable to anything that has to do with real compassion. Now they have this fire seed, but somebody's got to make it rain. and you got to put some water on it. And so that's where the lunar cycles and things like that, the height of the full moon, those kind of the cold water, the cold salt water, all those kind of principles, it's just alchemical. You could douse the body with cold salt water and let it lay in that. Even much as it hates it, a Kundalini activated body doesn't like cold water. But what you're doing then is just like you're putting the uranium fuel rods into the cold water so that they can cool down before you go Fukushima on these folks. Because remember, when you're also practicing energy principles, that's the soul, right? And then that's also connected with the body. But what are you putting in your mind? Because if you put it in one of these, you're talking about a Hashashin dueler? Like the Moorish Empire for what it really was, from Ben Saba, the son of Sevan? I mean, what kind of research? I had to dive through the whole thing because the lure is rich. It's just as thick and as embroidered as the most expensive Persian rug, this culture. But every single turn is yet another deeper path down on the zigzag of the matrices that are built and still running and still under control by Sultan. So that's why I was saying, see, now we got this point where we can be so innovative, we could do like a quantum leap, boom, and leave a sonic boom and a couple other boom, boom. And then bring a whole new world where it just shines like a light, like what the original pyramids looked like, a light in the distance. You're like, man, we got to get there. What is that? That's the city that you probably projected with your mind once you escape catacombs in the netherworlds. You see what I mean? But don't mistake this as something else, because it's two. It's the Devacanic planes that works on duality. All the bodies are built symmetrically with one interchanging principle in the center that barely functions most of the time. So see it as it is. And then if you want to progress further within this, understand you're in. But if you're out, then that means to desist from all this and to start really loading. It's an illusion, which it is. And then that way clearing up your path so that when you pass out of this body, then there's nothing that's going to thrust you back into the incarnation because you want to do something over again.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate the understanding on that. Like you said, it's like a kid at the lunch table telling a story, and it gets passed down. Yeah. And it just gets chopped up more and more. So.
Well, yeah, and then remember, look at what you just said. It gets chopped up. So what is added? Duality, more duality. So you can almost bet anything you own that the first story consists of no duality in regards to any ancient people, about them being separate, because it doesn't even make sense. But when it's 8 billion of us, of course, and that's why you can look at the world and they show records that these kind of matrices have been running for quite a bit of time. They still have fragments and things left over from large populations of people from before. So that lets us know that division thing, to be fruitful and multiply, the same thing we see going on in the trees, had happened. We can't limit the world for matrices from doing that. But that also means that all societies reach some kind of pinnacle. Like if you just watch it, and that's why people say you need to just watch what's going on real quick and make some quick equations, because we're about to reach the pinnacle, because we're gonna reach the age of ether here in a short moment, because they just released virtual reality. Virtual reality just released here in December. The opposite of the diametrically opposed frequency of virtual reality is ether. This is as above, so below. This is why they say that. It's because you can reverse engineer anything by just understanding its opposite component. So now that the age of ether start, but still remember, ether is to light as a snail. Meaning ether still moves slow. It's still what's forming the body and congealing around the body, but it's still much more advanced than the physical body because it's porous. It can move through many of the denser objects. So as we move into this frequency now and understanding that we actually have a light body, that's going to be very similar to what happened with most people when they found out they can control their dreams. Like when they just did a little research on lucid dreaming and realized that they control their dreams, generally within the first to the third night, they've controlled a dream. Now, it may be difficult to do it after that, and that's just because of all-out will. Like, can you keep the wheel turning? Can you stay aroused? Because if you get into the fear-based stuff, see, the fear-based stuff doesn't have an arousal to it. So who wants to be in fear all the time? You're always trying to look for a way out. That's why most people are running out of Christianity, because it's all fear-based. But when you're aroused by something, you're aroused by your expanded consciousness, you keep diving in for more. Nothing is deterring you. So do you see how once simply making an adjustment to how we're presenting our spiritual knowledge and our expansion and allowing it to be arousing because of our connection with one another, that changes everything. So anyone that's not talking about that and has been working with their cards and their symbols and all these different things and trying to get their websites going and still trying to charge money, open source is going to blow all that stuff away. But it also offers opportunities for individuals to come and to sustain themselves on karma-free. Because the other thing that we've got ourselves into that's kind of something we got to get out rather fast is with people who work with giving spiritual knowledge, tying that into that talisman. Because that dollar bill is a little strange if you don't understand how to handle the occultism behind it. That's more worth looking at than some of these law dictionaries, because you get a chance to see the cymatics. That's what the web weaving that you see in almost every dollar bill. They get crazy with the web weaving, right? It's like all of this multiple cymatic organic thing going on with the metallic strip. What is all that about? That shows you the wave or the frequency that it's actually moving on. So if we create our own, which is something else different, it's not even coming into something as coarse as paper. But if we begin to create our own worth, which is the dynamics of what we're creating next, that's the innovation. But, of course, we'll get into that as it comes along. But the main thing is to not just cut people off and say, oh, you shouldn't do this, and then you're not providing anything for them. Shame on a person that does that. But we have enough alone, just the amount of us that know each other, that if we were cycling energy with one another, especially from any kind of currency level, then we wouldn't be hurting. I mean, just to be quite frank, the Jews have been doing it forever. They're not hurting. It's because they patronize one another. Why you going to Procter and Gamble and he's selling non-chelated calcium, and here you got you need that calcium. You got to get it from somewhere. You get it from us. You see what I mean? So, but it's step by step, and that's what I think that most of that knowledge, if you really want to know the truth from me, I love it. But it's just for another time, because it doesn't give me any practical applications on how I'm going to change this direct reality. Like there's no instructions for how to build on WordPress inside of, Ben Haddad's, to trip around the throne. But there is, of course, a deep level of introspection that one's going to go through with that kind of work. And so you just need both. And then, of course, just remember the ejector seat. Because that's going to allow you to really sleep. That's going to allow you to get your rest. As far as your frequency, it's going to allow you to go into real rest. Because they talk about there's a difference between rest that's chaotic, right, and you're not even really getting sleep, versus real rest where you get a chance to rejuvenate yourself for this next gauntlet.
Okay, guys, what I want to do, if you don't mind, is play a quick song so we can all, that's been an hour now, so we can get a quick drink,
okay.
And then come back and we'll take some more calls if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, most definitely. Appreciate it for expanding on my questions, Sevan.
No doubt.
All right, hold me.
Back in 5, guys. Thank you.
You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. Now it's our turn.
Right, guys, we're back with the second half of the show, the Critical Mass Show on Critical Mass Radio, with myself, Paul Giovanni, and the amazing Sevan Bomber. He's there and taking your calls and answering many, many questions in the unique way he does. Sevan, are you there?
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to just power through some... Excuse me. Yes, for sure. We're going to go ahead and power through some questions now. I'm going to give myself some limits just so we can knock down quite a few questions, because that is the purpose of the call.
Okay, I'm just going to go, right, I'll tell you what, we've got that many, I'm just going to pick, okay. Hello, caller.
Paul, if you do have their area code, it may help them.
Thank you, pardon. 423 then, I'm so sorry. 423, I've just unmuted your mic there.
Hello?
Wholeness.
Hello, you're through to the Critical Mass Show, I'm through to Sevan.
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Excellent.
Good. I really don't have a question. I was just going to exchange some positive energy with you guys and say that I'm so grateful to be sharing this experience with you. And, yeah.
Amazing. Thanks.
thank you for all you do, Paul. Thank you for what you do. Oh, I love you guys so much.
Excellent. We like a bit of that. That's no problem. Okay. Right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll keep you there, and I'm going to open to. Hello, Andy. Hello, Andy. Andy. Bit of a delay here tonight. Andy, you there? Hello, Andy.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
Hello.
Guys, unmuting the mics. Andy, can hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Right. You're through to Sevan, Andy. Go for it, mate.
Oh, hi, Sevan. Good to hear from you. What I'd like to ask is, I had a spinal injury 30 years ago, and I have a level of constant pain. Is that why I find it difficult to benefit from meditation and have no success in getting out of my body with astral travel?
Yeah, you have to just take another channel, because what happens is that it's just like the other day I had gotten like my daughter scratched me in the ear area, and it ended up actually really hurting. And I found when I got into meditation that the higher I started going into the frequency, that was disturbing me more and more, to a point where it was affecting my meditation. So I just decided to give it a break for a few days until that healed itself up properly. So it's the same thing as that if we sustain some kind of open area, especially, it also comes open in the aura. And getting into those kind of practices, because it involves a lot of pushing air into certain areas, it basically puts force on those areas. So, what you need to look into is you need to really look into some alternative stuff. I would recommend emailing me directly, especially in regards to this one particular device called a biomat. But we've discovered one that seems to be quite effective with different things. And what a biomat is it's basically an antenna. And it's an antenna, though, that's able to actually mesh with the field of the body. And so this mat basically has different settings, and this frequency penetrates the body, and it really penetrates the body. And this is for extreme cases such as this, what's been recommended to get into, because it allows you to really work more with the field itself. Because if you're trying to work with the body, I don't care really what the person is proclaiming, unless it's something that obviously that can be cured with hydrogen or oxygen because of herniation. But if it's something of that nature, it's something different. But what I'm saying is that just in general, if there is some kind of damage to the spine where the bone is missing or has been cracked or damaged, it can affect a person's meditative principles and properties. And it would be beneficial for them to fix that some way, somehow, and know that there's no impossibilities here, in order to keep pursuing that. And so, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Is that all right, Andy?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, and then also remember what I said. I mean, there's always other ways. To get into that conversation in the show, I don't know if those conversations are really even appropriate for on-air shows these days. But, get with me, send me an email, and I'll send you some data, because we've already done research in that area when it comes to that kind of thing. But you're talking about regeneration of bone structure. So it's really up to you.
Will do. Thanks. Thanks for that, Sevan.
Uh-huh.
Right, cheers, Andy. We're going to move on. Okay, I've got 951 area code. You're through, live now to Sevan.
Hello.
Good day.
Hello.
Hey, how y'all doing today, man?
Man, exceptionally well, man.
It's good. I had a couple of questions. I had a lot of questions down, but I noticed that you answered like 75% of them while you were just talking right now.
Okay, good.
I'm noticing that as I study all different belief systems, that a lot of people is using different words to describe the same thing. So I'm more focused on getting straightforward to the point as to what's going on in my mind, and like the techniques that I'm using to into my spirituality. I wanted to know, did you have any specific, like, straightforward techniques to maintain that consciousness above non-thought? I'm really working on just trying to shut down the thinker on a level. So I'm really just trying to maintain that high
that high perception above and our thought. And I notice I keep slipping out, and it's making me, it gets me angry. And it's just like a war, you know, I'm still fighting that war, but I'm just noticing, trying to hold that position in my corpus calypsum where I can achieve balance. But I just want to know, do you have any specifics, just straightforward techniques of how I can maintain that 24/7? Because that's where I'm really trying to be.
For sure. Two things. One, I'm about to release a video on some breathing techniques that's just out of this world, literally. And both of these things are on the cooker because it's just been taking us a minute to not only build the site, but also figure out exactly where we need to come with this to get many questions answered at one time. So another very useful piece that we're bringing out is what's called the Spirit Tech Manual. And I'm working on that with a good friend of mine, Elder. And what's happening is that this manual basically shows you how to go on a regimen. Obviously, I'm going to be doing, when I launch, my main focus is to go into daily life. And so that means that there's basically a camera on me, at least through the major times of what my day really consists of and how I'm really keeping this thing together, because I'm also not I'm not a small guy. Like, I'm pushing out a lot of strength, and I'm doing that on a vegetarian diet. I've been a vegetarian for 10 years. Also, I know a lot of enigmatic people that are around, in that, you know, we all have really the same story. We have a lot of talents and a lot of gifts. And it has just been working to figure out how we're going to all come together and then house that. Because, you know, it's not like when you're in other countries that people would just go home the next night. So it's taken a big projection. So that's really what you'll be looking at. We're looking to have it finished by the end of this month. But that manual, when you read it, it'll let you see how the daily thing goes with what kind of supplements or what kind of condition the body needs to be in. And again, the goal of this plan also is we have what we call the good, better, best. And this means that we're not trying to lean on you with, you know, rates and prices and, you know, lots of spending lots of cash on yourself, unless, you know, you're just a connoisseur of self and you have it like that and that's what you're ready to do. We want to make it as practical as possible for the entry-level individual to get into this and to start expanding. And even if they're having troubles with cash, we really want to open up a facility where, if they have the will, that they can also assist others and become compensated for that, kind of generating a career for themselves, a real spiritual career. So what I'll tell you is that look out for that manual, because that's going to give you a lot of practicality. Definitely look out for this stream that's about to start the moment we get the site launched, which is just the In the Know blog, and it's just real time what's going on. And so that way we can draw closer together to one another, because that's what's really going to happen. That's what's happening anyway. And we can also progress further in all endeavors in life, because if my thing is look, if you're smart, let's use it. Like, I think that I'm smart at this point, that some people are saying that seem to know what I'm talking about. I connected some things. So I'm taking it all the way. I take this one talent, right? And then metamorphosize the entire reality with it. And while I'm going through it, learning more things, like even to work with your hands, to build things, to open up that kind of facet of yourself, but also to understand how to connect with others, how to look into people's eyes, how to tell the truth, how to stay in truth no matter who's around you, and then how to stay connected to that synchronicity that's going to lead you along the way, just like it's breadcrumbs. And how to also stay out of duality where you think those breadcrumbs are leading to your own doom. You see what I mean? So there's a balance to it. It's a whole lifestyle. But I find it interesting because this is even as younger, this is what I always thought things were supposed to be about. And then I just got to a point where I realized that maybe I was responsible for creating it. And again, what am I creating? Open source spirituality. It's so everyone can bolt on from where they're at and keep going beyond, as long as they have the will to do it. And then what I want to say in conclusion is, people should realize the other thing about something like this is, if it's been thought through properly, when the individual reaches a certain stage, all their current is really based on what they've already done with their own body. This is how you keep the codependency out of the whole thing. If the person listens to what's being said in the curriculum about getting untied from certain things, does what they need to do from the manual and things, and do the necessary work to the crash-landed ship or the body, then the next stage of their own current is going to come. It's not magic. It's not hocus pocus. You did the work. So that's what it is. We're collectively building something, and it's complete. Like I was telling people before, now people have to learn how to inhabit that frequency and to how to get onto that frequency. So that's all I'll say.
Hey, that's perfect. That leads me into my next question. With like I feel expanded, I feel really expanded, and I feel like I have a lot to offer and bring to the table. But I'm at the same time, I'm young. I'm 23, and I can perceive what's going to happen in the next couple of years. But at the same time, I want to do things now because I'm getting, like I said, these revelations every day, and I can explain things in a way that can help people also. So I was wondering, is the highest expression of this truth to put it in a body of art? Is that like to say I want to put it in my music? I want to, make lectures and just perfection. Is that the highest expression of this that I can help this reality as to where I'm at right now? Is that the highest expression of it?
Well, I mean, the reality is that you have to ask yourself that, because if you believe that you're balanced, that means that everything that you're pushing out is also a replication of that. So you really realize you're kind of doing both at the same time. And that's what I was saying earlier. You have this experience that you're having with everyone on the external plane because you are here. And then you have this other world that you also exist on, that you also focuses equal as much attention, which is your spiritual life. And somehow the two should marry each other at a certain point, or else always stay betwixt, like church and state, as they say. But you would need to blend those two. And so I would say that, search within yourself to ask yourself again, has one attained balance? And are you really ready to go out here and do your thing? And then you already know you have the network. That's what this other platform is really about. We'll feature your work. We could build a page out for you. It's not a thing, as long as what you're talking runs parallel with the blueprint. I mean, it should be synced up with what everyone else is talking about, but within your own way and your own expression. So this is also what I say, because you're younger than me. See, when I thought that when I got to a certain stage that they were going to catch me, meaning that the elders would be there. There would be some elders, they knew way more about this, and they blow me away. And I'm not saying that they're not there. Maybe they're individuals and invisible, and I get different individuals coming into my life from time to time. So maybe that's them. But I'm just saying, on a general level, I expect it for there to be to be more of a presence in the reality. So what I'll say is that that's what we're creating, is where it has more of a presence in the reality. So you already know the answer to your question, so what do I need to do next? Because just even saying I'm going to produce some kind of music, I'm going to produce some kind of, if you've done that before or done a little bit of it, you know what comes with that. There's a lot of work that you have to do. And then you also have to be familiar with pizza. And what pizza is, this is one of my code words, but pizza is basically, is it what you like? Or is it what actually allows you to express what you like to others, so that way it gains the steam of what it needs to have to make that massive ripple effect? Because in certain tenses, there's a lot of stuff. I have 600 recordings still in the archives, just things that the way it has to be released and when it's going to be released, it has to be different than some of these radio shows and things like that, because of the content that is on those, on that CD or on those recordings. So this is the thing to consider, is that basically, can you produce? Because don't go, just if you're taking me as a mentor or something, man, don't go at this playing around at all. Like, all the data that you need to understand what you're doing and how to succeed is on the internet. You just need to understand how to Google it. And then when you see anything for a person, especially that understands blueprints, you could take something that is very successful and easily cross it over to the stage of spiritual consciousness, and then begin to work with it from there, because you can see the blueprint. And so that's really what I had to say about the whole thing, is that if you're going to go into it, let it reflect what you already have accomplished in your spiritual stance. Don't let it demote that. So that's all I was saying. So that should make perfect sense to you. So make sure that expression that you can bring it into 3D.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. And I just thank you for everything you did for me personally in my spiritual liberation. And like I said, I noticed, like, the more I learned, I was learning the stuff that was already going on. Like I said, I always having, like, in my visual cortex, visions going on while I'm having conversations, and I'll be bringing that to my friends' attention of all of the things that we're seeing in our imagination that we not even paying attention to, and just like things in the subtle field going on that you definitely opened my mind up to. So like again, I want to tell you I appreciate you for that.
Oh man, well, well, I definitely see. You're already shining. You're doing your thing. So it's just only gonna build. And then always remember, it's pulling you in. It's not that you're chasing it. Watch what I say, and it makes things a lot easier. But I mean, you'll rewind that back maybe and just remember that again. It's pulling you in. It's not that you're chasing it. So at many points when you feel like that there's something that you need to do or whatever to keep it going, you'll be surprised that it's when you sit back in your consciousness for a moment how the next wave of things just comes along.
Thank you.
No doubt.
Hey man, like you answered a lot of my questions before I even asked you. Like I have a lot of questions wrote down. You answered them in your beginning. So like I said, we in tune. Like I'm in. Like it's, when you talk, I don't even need to call. Like you said, I already knew the answer to the questions I had. I just wanted to call in and really just get confirmation because that's what you bring for me.
Yeah,
and,
me too. I mean, I'm sure
know.
there's other people too that are also listening. So it unfolds, and then it collapses back upon itself. So it's all the same thing to me now. At this point, it's just bringing consciousness in the best way possible, and to really speak to people from your heart and from truth. And then also keep this thing exciting. Like I'm aroused by this. Like I'm not. This is not the world is over. Like if you're talking to the kind of beings that the world was just all of a sudden over, like it would just rewind again, and we would start it from where it wasn't over, and then we would fix whatever was the problem with why it was over at that point, and then kick it up again until we get the results that we're actually looking for. You got to understand that the consciousness is that powerful, and the more that you start to know that, the more you start seeing and then experimenting. Imagine if you're young now, and then you got you get layered, you got 5-6 years on it. It's going to turn into something entirely different as. Just as you look at your past self now, go back 5 years, 6 years, it's a quantum leap. So steady as she goes.
Yeah. Okay, my friend.
All right, man. Y'all both have a blessed day, man.
Okay.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to move quickly on. Okay, thank you for that, my friend. Great questions tonight, Sevan, yeah?
Yeah, great questions. It's great to connect with the people.
We're doing good. Brilliant. Okay, 202. You are through to the Critical Mass Show. Hi, and through to Sevan.
Wholeness. I don't know what to call my brother, so I can call him the big homie.
Okay, what's up?
I don't have a name, but I gave you a name, but let me get to it.
It's good to hear you.
Always, I'm always listening. So I sat with the elder in Chicago, and I threw some questions at the elder. And he gave me some major insight, but it just propels me to these questions. I said to him, my goal was to become one, right? At one point, was to become one. And before wholeness, before oneness, I always saw duality, the dance of duality. I saw this endless duality, expanding constructs, compressing waves versus expanding waves in the exact same space, right? So I realized that, okay, the goal is to become one, to move through the portal to become undone. And then I realized that I couldn't stay there. So that's when, the bridge, being the bridge builder and being able to walk back and forth. So then the next elevation was how fast can you conjugate and how well do you conjugate? And that leads me to the door. So I asked this before and I didn't get a response. Well, the door, what is it? That's my first question. And on a secondary question, this will help me a lot. Sometimes if I'm stretching or meditating or I stand up, and I'm out of breath, and I take good breaths or something, I'm doing some breath work, all around me, like 360, I'll see like gold, I want to say gold dots, like if you were in a swarm of fruit flies, right? But it was all just like gold light. What is that happening? I want to know what that is. I need to know what that is because sometimes they'll happen, like if I ask a question.
Yeah.
And I know something, like these gold things will just like pop into my visual spectrum. So again, my first question is, when I heard you speak on the door, it becomes like a door to you. What is the door? Okay? Mm-hmm. And then the second question, what is that gold, those gold? I've heard you speak about tubes and seeing the tubes and being to go into tubes. And maybe they're traveling into. I'm not seeing the tube. I'm seeing the gold spot, and I want to know what those are. Now, you know I got more questions, but those are the first two. The door, what is it? And I know you're going to hit me with metaphor, and you're going to do what you do, and you do it well. But, you know, I'm not asking you to be direct or to curve. I just need, you know what I'm saying, insight. Can you help me with that?
For sure. For sure. What I'll say, first of all, is that this gets into, and it's probably, you know, this kind of question may be the end of the program today, but it gets into what we were talking about earlier in regards to the front door and the back door. And what happens is that, like, I'm not anybody's judge. I'm not here to judge you. And that keeps me out of judgment. And so when I'm talking to you, and because who knows who I'm talking to, I'm talking through you, okay? Just so that you can catch a whiff of what I'm talking about, because this is the same thing that I have to go through. Like, and so I can only say based on what I saw, this is what happens. So what happens is that there's a certain point in life where you start to use the back door of your consciousness. Now, the reason why I talk about it's a certain time in life is because it seems like the human being is naturally calibrated to use the front door of their consciousness, meaning to come into full awareness, openness, which is openness to the society when they are young, right? The baby is just open. And it is through that channel that child taps into the beyond the door, okay? So what happens is that at a certain point, as obviously the reality starts to dawn on the child about what's going on here in the matrix, then the front door begins to close. The child doesn't become as open. So remember, simple things can cause this frequencies, TVs, anything that makes a person cringe, loud music, loud sounds, scaring, those kind of things, anything that makes a person compress is going to close the front door. But always remember, only the air walks through the front door. So if this is your house, you should be coming through the front door, because only slaves go through the back door. So what the back door is it's a way in which you utilize other things. That's making pacts, oaths, connections, all these kind of different things. And remember, none of these are good or bad. In order to climb into other stages of your consciousness, which is known as the zigzag, yoga or tantra, of the actual progress up the tree through the doors, because that's what it becomes. There's not just one door. It's basically one stage as you feel like now. And then you just level up, boom, now you're on the next stage. Then things present themselves a different way, right? And so, but each time you get to the certain door, you have the choice to whether you want to at times go beyond. But these could be called sub-doors, okay? Because now we want to talk about the big door. The big door, when that door is open, when you look through, you see the abyss. You see the ibis. Thought or thoth is present. This is the point right then. Because if the mind starts to think, that's called Hanuman. That's Hanuman, the monkey. Okay. He will grab the consciousness with his 4 fingers and pull back down the soul back into the body. That's called the monkey mind under the dominion of the moon key, mano, the moon in Spanish, right? So instead of seeing these characters, and this is what was so cold, because if we ever start seeing these characters as external, we lost it all at that point. And we know it happened. People are super externalized right now. It happened at some point. So from an internal level, everyone knew Hanuman was in your body, and that the monkey mind grabbed that massive state of consciousness as it was about to leave in Thoth, who has the baboon face, right? It's all replete, homie. Then you're going to come right back down, and then that's the key to the moon. And that's how they stay under dominion. And then all of the stories that come with that, there's tons of stories about the DNA and all sorts of things that go with that. And then it just repletes itself in the dimension as different things, but just really core principles about how the blood is shaped. You see what I mean? So that's That's that. Okay, so the gold dots. Okay, so some people I've noticed when they get into one of these crazy workouts and they come up too fast, and then these curls of silver that they start seeing as they're basically about to pass out, right? So the gold dots are very similar, except you're generally not about to pass out. What you've done is you've gone completely up to the top of the back door. Now, see, the back door is also the hardest to develop. Okay? That's why I'm saying that we're not talking about good and bad here. The person who can remain in both worlds has a very developed front and back door.
All itself.
Exactly. So what happens is, remember, some want to stay on the front door, some want to stay on the back door. Good example of the front door is like a Christian. The whole front door is open, which is great, but it's open to what? There's no backbone. There's no back door. They don't have no knowledge about what the entity is, even for a greater genuflection, or what they're involved in, because there's no backbone. You see what I mean? So the back door is, AKA, we call it the Adept or the OG, because the back door is capable of going through several stages of intoxication and illusion. And I'm going to have to take a moment to answer this door. I can't believe it, but several stages of intoxication and illusion in order to and actually stay in there cool, like it just is not even under an effect of it. So you know what I'm talking about. But just let's hold on for real quick, because I think someone's locked out. Excuse me, everyone on the radio, but it happens. It's still grassroots.
I love this. This is live radio for you. It's fantastic. It's all good. Okay, we'll give Sevan the time that he needs. I'm not going to try and attempt.
I
Sorry?
I definitely just want to say now that, having allowed myself to be a student to him as a teacher, it has, without doubt, allowed me to save, restructure, and propel my own life in the direction that I choose. And so, there is an ever debt that I can only repay with my effort.
Okay, excuse me, that was
the only reason I'm expressing it now is because I'm on air, you know what I mean? And I really mean it. Like, I really, really mean it. Like, the minute that I ask the question to the Most High, there was an intervention. And I'm eternally grateful to my teacher for these lessons.
Okay.
And so, I just have to continue to do this work and apply it, and to move from philosophy into practice. I think what we find out here is...
Well, yeah, I mean, and just to let everyone know I'm forward again, but exactly as you're saying, I may interjected in the whole thing, but that's exactly where we come in at it. And it's the philosophy of the practice, from philosophy to practice, because, see, that's the difference between the front door and the back door. Because in the front door, you're actually in the face of it. So whatever you're looking at, it's also governed by your frequency. So then you can never be off guard. Versus with utilizing too many backdoor techniques, because the backdoor it excels by its own at times. It could push you into something that you're not prepared to deal with. And at the same time, it has to do with the backside of the chakras, which are corresponding themselves to physical, more closer to physical manifestation and apparition and genuflection. So in every tense, more of the darker side of what it all encompasses anyway. That's why developed back doors, sometimes which are occultists, have a tendency to also be utilizing all fire, because this is also the difference, just to finish this off. Mm-hmm. The back door is fire. The front door is water. So in every tense, in the lungs is the regulator for how you're entering into this stage. And if there has to be a fair share of both of those elements in order to really get you to where you're going. And this is how you, in a tense, control the body's temperature systems and kundalini systems. So the kundalini doesn't go wild like it will, especially if you're working out, or any kind of breathing techniques where the kundalini is constantly forced to come from the cossus of the spine and all the way up. And then once you restore yourself or whatever, it starts to come back down. Making those journeys, it's going through those ventricles. And those ventricles, they're being coated by that substance. So this is also known as cultivation. This is how the body can cultivate. So this is step-by-step, of course, and you know all about it. We've been on it. And there's a lot of new developments and things, though, especially with the water. I got some videos and stuff to do. And it's just an amazing time. And we obviously never been able to cram the whole thing into one show, but we definitely had a great 2 hours.
speaking of water, since you said it, so with a singing bowl that has all of the metals, I put water in the singing bowl, and I've watched the cymatic reaction between the vibrations and water. Now, can you drink that water?
Well, first you need to make sure that the water and the surface tension of the water is really taking in the vibration as a carrier properly. And so this is easy to tell because when you freeze distilled water, which is rainwater, you generally see the icicle start to stand on its own. That's really the only structured kind of water until you go into advanced torsions and all these different kind of things. And so, just working from that water, because the memory is still intact, or if you can distill the water in some way and then knock the surface tension off of the water with some sea salt, then
my whole stash is distilled right here. Now, the Dorje and bell, and to hold the bell, I've noticed through depictions that holding the bell, there are mudras by which you hold the bell as well as the Dorje. Go in on that.
What you're dealing with is that when walking through planes, you have to hold a frequency. This is how you avoid having a jumper and a catcher. This is one who walks the frequencies alone, basically a monk. Any other time you walk the frequencies as a collective because someone's holding the bridge between both planes. So what the Time Lord is doing is basically ringing the bell to stay into that space that allows them to walk through that portal. And while at the same time using the mudra to change the frequencies. You see what I mean? Rather than the bell, because the bell's purpose is to, hey, let's hold our frequency, because you can't, you're on the elevator basically. And then the mudra is tuning the actual frequency up and down in order to oscillate between the planes.
Okay, and so, now the drum.
Okay, so just so you understand, like, again, the bell, someone would think the purpose of the bell is to have the frequency, and it's that frequency that is trying to be held, but there's an oscillation in the mudra. And just as, you'll see this when people get into this, some people have gotten activated and their hands start moving into weird positions. And this is just the correspondence, because the hand it's the pentagram, so it's basically folding upon itself. It's doing the tesseract thing, when you see these geometric shapes and they're just going in and out of each other. How that would look like is we would be moving our hands into different positions if you saw it in our dimension. And then so that's the same purpose of that, and this is a graduated thing, This is where, I'm still like, we're still kind of.
That's why I don't touch it. That's why I don't touch it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it has its own respect. But, I'm sure, you have to look deeper into the tradition. But, there's a lot about, because remember, it's still a frequency that's resonant here. So with your own consciousness, there's just so many expanses. That's the other thing about the meditation. And I'll say this and I'm done. In the meditation, one has to realize that what they're really doing is building up energy. They're not trying to visualize anything. This is the big key. This is the biggest key. You're only trying to really store energy. You're not trying to build a world and drop planes and all that, because you do that from a whole nother level and it's a lot more accurate. But because the energy is not there, that's why the manifestation hasn't come forth. But there's no need to be thinking, no need for Hanuman in the whole higher level of consciousness and totality. So that's an important thing.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate it. You know how I feel. Don't doubt that. Sometimes I don't, exactly know what's best until I know what's best. And so this is a part of my journey. But that what I express to you is the truth from the truest part of me.
Oh man, most
and
certainly.
So in that,
most certainly.
wholeness and balance. And forward from here.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? Forward. Almost.
Okay, Paul, are you still there?
Yeah, thank you very much, my friend. Okay.
Yeah.
Just leaving you to it, yeah? No.
Yeah, we're good, though. Okay. Yeah, I mean, when we got that one out, that was a beautiful combo. I'm sure, it'll be enjoyed throughout time.
What we're going to do, we've got about, 9 minutes left with yourself, Sevan. So I just want to sort of talk more with you now and where you are and what you are hoping for within and with all and for the future. Just if you could just talk on that now, and also just update us with the site and contact emails, the whole shebang, please.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, I mean, it's very simple. People, if you wanted to hear some of the archives and the things that we have going on, you can actually go to astroquest.com and you'll find 3 links there. One goes to the Resistance website. The other one goes to the podcast where we keep all of our past recordings. And then the other one goes to Realm Dynamics, which is where you'll find the elements that we use to activate the body. Also the Secret Energy platform, which is secretenergy.com. You can check out the front page, and there's also something that you can download there that actually gives you more information about what the platform is going to feature. And so you can download that. You can also put your email address in there, and that'll allow us to alert you when we're opening and when we're going into beta and how we're progressing. And so that's what's going on. Like that's what we have.
And that's huge. A culmination of many years of work and research and experience and feelings and thoughts and everything sort of coming together. And that's what I like about that as well, because there's an action in it, and it's kind of bringing it together also. And listen to the callers that we've had this evening today. The knowledge base and the understanding level is just knocked me sideways, and the kind of questions that are being posed.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in this together. It's interesting, though, because I really want to do this thing. It's like 35 hours live. I think that's going to hit the Guinness Book World Record. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold my breath for 17 minutes or anything like that, but I want to do this radio show. And it's just like hours and hours. I'm just going to sit down and answer these questions because I believe that it actually would take me something like that long to really, really get everyone out of the wilderness that may find themselves in there. And obviously, it's so great to be like, but no place is bad or good. Because when you get like that inside of yourself and when you're balanced, it doesn't really matter where you are. You're handling it from that level. And that level is the most powerful on any plane, is to be balanced. Because just like I was saying earlier, the resonance, if you're balanced, you bring out the balance in others, even for that moment. Because if you happen to be around them and whatever you're doing, and that's why I'll tell people, you have to realize the difference between your old self, which could manifest a great deal of troubles for you, especially since it was responsible for everything it was doing, but it didn't know none of the mechanics of what it was doing. It didn't know the language and the keys to certain things, the legal systems, all that just in recollection alone has a lot of power. So the old self thus was causing things to happen that ended up in situations to where you may have gotten hurt or you may have had a spike or a dent in your frequency. And what's important now is to realize that this new self that you've inherited, which is based on frequencies, new and old, it's all a frequency, this new self that you can trust. So if you allow some of the things that occur in the past, mainly the fears, to keep you from going beyond the threshold of yourself, then you need to trust the new self. And then how you trust the new self is also looking into your actions and activities, still remembering that trying to be a purist is a trap. You really want to work on keeping yourself in the balance and looking at how you can get proactive about dealing with mainly your body also in this. Just remember, don't forget about the body. It's a key component because the body has spent from amoeba all the way to human, which means going through quite a few vicious entities to get to where it is. So in many tenses, it's a lot more convinced about what it's about and its story, and which is still a part of an illusion because, and I'll explain why. Some people say, well, I don't know if I can buy into the whole illusion thing. Let me explain. If it's not the entire thing, it's an illusion. Because if you don't see the whole thing, you're not seeing all of it. So this means that it can't be considered as the whole thing. And that's what we're talking about. Some people may take the whole illusion thing and take it too deep, but we're talking about simple mechanics here. If there's pieces that's missing, this is not the whole thing. This would be like you bringing in a pizza and it's got, 5 slices gone. And I say, where's the rest of the pizza? And you're like, what rest of the pizza? Well, 5 slices is missing here. This is not the whole pizza. You see, so this is what we're talking about when we refer to illusion. Because if the person still keeps pushing at you, this is a whole pizza. It's like a Jedi mind trick then. Now you're supposed to accept that this is a whole pizza, even though it's clear 5 slices are missing. This is what we're referring to with this whole, it's an illusion, okay? Because then I'm not going to take you serious. If I'm still standing in innerstanding, okay? I'm not going to take you serious. I'm going to think now we're playing a game, just to give you the benefit of the doubt of this illusionary thought that this is a whole pizza. We're playing a game. And in this game, there's a blue and there's a red. I mean, that's Coca-Cola or Pepsi, excuse me. You see these 2 opposing colors, and these 2 colors are going back and forth. And if it wasn't for the other one, no one would even know about the other one. Like if it wasn't for somebody saying something bad about goji berries, half people wouldn't even have known about goji berries. It just 2 juxtapositions in order to create 2 wavelengths that slam into each other, and from that they manifest. And this manifest is a big key word because Columbus came over with one manifest. But this manifest basically says is the growth of something onto the physical plane, which in many tenses, if you can manifest stuff on 5D and 6D and all this, but if it ain't here, it doesn't even matter. Realistically, because if you need that now, but if you're working on connecting, I won't say it doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is that don't look for its relevance in the physical reality until it pierces the veil. And to pierce this envelope, ideas that don't have real foundation, don't have real steam behind them, it can't happen. And then when we start accepting that, we look back into ourselves and we're okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to get this thing back online. Let's get this thing back online, because that's the awakening. It's realizing, oh man, this is the truth. Oh no, it's like I thought. Oh my goodness, what do we got to do? Where we got to start? And so I also do get that. We do handle people personally with consultations about where do I start, but we're really working it into the manual. Like I was explaining to the guy earlier today about the regimen, that if you have something to give to a person and say, bam, this is it. This will allow you, from based on where you're at, to start this climb as long as you're willing to climb. That's what needs to be. That's all to me that needs to be provided. Anything else seems to be overboard in a certain tense, because if you commit yourself, and this is the Save the World program, if you commit yourself too deep into the web, like, I'm on this side, I'm on this team, then what ends up happening is that you can get enthralled into the duality and not know when to shut it off. So remember, that's also what the master of the reality understands, is how to shut it off. He can shut off the narrator, shut off the accuser, and shut off the dweller, which are the key components to physical realities. This means that in their mind, when they start going up through frequency, you don't hear the mind saying, oh my goodness, are we going to die? Are we going to even come back? This is way too high. We're way too high. Oh my goodness. And this kind of chatter going through the front door, mind you, because that back door still will try to push you through that experience. Going through the front door, it just kills the whole thing. It shuts the whole panel down, because where you were going then, when you go to the front through the front door, is to the real house. Where you're going through the back door is all the dualistic illusionary plane of self. That self is self-generated based on the etheric plane that it exists on now, which we're calling Earth. and that's how it works. I mean, that's how it works. So what else do we got? I know we're ending the hour. It's 1:51 or hour and 51 minutes on my side. And I feel like we had a great conversation.
It's been fantastic. I mean, there's so much, and I've learned, again, just looking at the comments and the questions on all levels, and the callers in and everything that you say to me, and I've said this before, you mentioned the word judgment as well, and I get this constantly, but every conversation, that even if you overhear it, that to me there's a message, more than one in tonight's case, but there are messages all the time, and to be open-minded and to accept all eventualities. I can't, like you said about, it's almost too much into the matrix where you cut yourself off almost but this acceptance, I feel that needs to be there, just to be open-minded. I feel that's a big key, I think, to listen to what you're saying and everybody else, and then kind of feel what's right for yourself as well and where that fits. And then we can all, for myself anyway, learn and sort of come together a bit quicker, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, well said. I mean, very well said. And this is just it's our time. Like, I've been watching this, obviously for a while, and I've been doing everything that I can do, but I've watched just amazing metamorphosis with many individuals around me. So, I'm in it. I'm going to continue as I have been doing. And then every time you see me, every time you talk to me, it'll be quantum progress. If you're looking for it, all you have to do is find out where we're at, or more easily, just look within, because that's the synchronicity within everything. That's what brings us together today. I've connected. I actually accepted a lot of the Facebook friends yesterday, only because I hadn't been in there a while, and I just connected. Again, been doing more to connect with people, especially within the last week, because we're ending somewhat of the final phases of the site, so I don't have to dedicate so much of my time toward just building frameworks. So this is it's an amazing time. So I want to say thank you also for hosting the call, all the individuals also on the network for keeping that projection strong. And also, we went through a very clear call today. There wasn't much of a breakdown, but even when it is, we do handle it. But, it just shows itself for what it is.
It's all good. And thank you to our mutual friend for sort of making this happen as well. It's been fantastic. But Sevan, you're an absolute star, and it's a pleasure to have the time with yourself as well. It's honestly, my friend, it's been great. I've learned so much and a lot to take away. Guys, this podcast will be up and ready if you go to Critical Mass radio site .co.uk. The podcast will be up in half an hour for you all to listen and hammer this again, and keep listening and listening, and spread it about as well, because this is how it all works. So Sevan, we'll keep in contact and have I know everything's going to be great, but all the best with the site, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, for sure. And just to let everyone know, just remember, the map is not the terrain itself. It's all in the experience, and that's why what makes this different, and why it's not in books, is because we're going there. We've been there. There's something there, and it's inside of you, and it's more expanded than anything. And just to answer the final question about totality and what it may consist of, the reason why nobody can explain it is because it can't be fit into this kind of words and language and shapes and all these kind of things. It's so expanded, and it's something that not only do we have to experience together, we're already experiencing together. So it's just about getting into the frequency to where the totality is actually present, to feel those that you are fortunate enough to be around. And so I want to thank everyone again for pushing this. It's been 5-6 years. It's been amazing. I still feel like it's yesterday. I feel like, okay, we're getting started here. And it's amazing to be able to do this. And so just sending out much love and compassion to everyone, especially those that have been triumphing with their own progress into this information and into their own expansion.
Brilliant stuff. Great way. Thank you. Cheers for that, Sevan. We'll speak soon.
Okay.